You've helped generate over 40 million in sales. You're a badass mom, right? So let me put that out there.
I don't know how many times have I said that to myself. This too shall pass. This is not the end all and be all. Like, wait, be patient. And it's just one little hump that you're going to go through, and just see it played out and find other avenues. Get yourself a coach.
Talking about picking your hard. Elaborate on that.
Pick your hard. What hard are you going to do? Because they're both hard.
Yes.
So they're hard. Yep. So like, eeny, meeny, miny, mo. That's what my kids always say. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Like, what hard are you willing to take? As in leadership, I do want to help other women, but we have a lot to give and we have a lot of knowledge, but it's up to us to go look for that knowledge, go look for those skills.
What is your mission right now?
So my mission right now is I want to help other ladies. They're starting their business. I'm for it. I'm there to be a support and help you start up your business. Don't give up on your dreams. Don't give up on how you want your life to look like, because life is really short. One day we're here, tomorrow we're not.
Diana, welcome to the show. I appreciate you joining me for today.
Thank you so much, Karl. It's a pleasure. I've known you for quite some time now, so it's nice to finally get to be on a one-on-one with you. So thank you.
Yeah, amazing. I appreciate you. Diana, I can't wait to dig into your story because I've been watching your journey for some time. I met your husband and you through some coaching and through other group coaching platforms and working with you guys as a coach in that season of life. And it's been amazing to watch your journeys and the pivots and the things that you guys have been through. So really want to unpack all of that in the next 45 minutes to an hour. Let me kind of set the stage for what we can expect to hear, because you know, as I was looking at your bio, you're a homeschool mom of 3. You've helped generate over 40 million in sales, right? You run an agency, but you didn't start there. By the way, already that's like saying you're a badass mom, right? So let me put that out there. You know, I'm sitting here with a badass mom, you know, that's accomplishing this, all of this, but you didn't start there.
No.
The journey began 20 years ago, you know, if I got the context correct, between you and your husband. You know, you guys made a decision, and hey, you're going to come home to stay with your firstborn. But that wasn't realistic for you guys because at the time, the income wasn't there for your husband and you couldn't support the family. So take us from that point of, you know, paint the picture for us of that gap between where you started and where you're standing or sitting today.
It took 20 years to where I'm at right now. It was not an overnight. A lot of people think like, what, you made this much money? I'm like, yeah, but it was not overnight. It took me quite a few years to get there. But yeah, at the beginning, made a decision that I was going to homeschool my kids or to have any. And I was like, well, how are we going to manage that? We have a house payment. We have cars, you know, and we didn't at the beginning, like he's 24 now, but we were living the life, no kids, double income. It was amazing. So that's why we did all of that. But then when my son, was born, you know, I just couldn't leave him anymore. At my mom or my mother-in-law, I just couldn't, some people sometimes used to, babysit for me, and I just couldn't do that anymore. My husband is like, no, but we're going to start homeschooling. So let's start now. Like, let's start cutting back on our stuff. So we did that, but life, you know, if it's expensive now, but back then it was still expensive because the income was not to par. So what I started doing was started selling stuff, my Coach purses, because like I said, double income. So, back then we were kind of rich. So, I started getting my Coach purses and I started selling them on eBay. And then that's how I started. That's how I think it's called my addiction began. So
I can relate. Guilty's charged.
Yeah. And then after that, I'm like, oh my goodness, I made money on my used purses. So let's do a little bit more. So, you know, that Black Friday sales, back then, like 20 years ago, people like used, you know, whatever you saw on YouTube, like 20 years ago, people like cramming inside the store just to get those deals. Okay. So that was me, 2:00 in the morning in the line at the Coach outlets. Okay. That was me. So I would go in there and I would spend like $1,000, $2,000 on Coach purses. And then I would sell them on eBay. And that was like so much fun for me. So I thought this was kind of fun. But the only thing is like, it was one of. And back then I had a big old camera and I had to take a picture of one of. And I'm like, okay, there has to be something simpler. But trial and error. And there's not a lot of YouTube videos, not ChatGPT to help me or anything like that. So it was difficult and it was a trial and error. And I had to get some coaches because the fastest way to get to your goal is getting a coach. So I'm like, I couldn't do this by myself. So I did that. And then of course, I started selling baby blankets. I would get them at Target like for $6 and then I would sell them for $30 because they were selling them across the board for $30. So I didn't want to sell myself short. So I would sell exactly what they were selling. And I would even ask the manager at Target, do you have any more in the bag? And they're like, sure. And they would just give them to me. And I'm like, thank you so much. I know what I was doing, but yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks for giving us. Yeah. Thanks for sharing, pretty much where that the journey began. I can, resonate with with a dopamine hit or the high, if you will, of buying something and it sells for 2, 3 or even a higher X, what you pay for it. And it's like, oh, I'm addicted, and I know that feeling. You never go into the store the same way ever again.
Never.
Fast forward 20 plus years, I'm going to start making myself feel old, but fast forward, I don't even like shopping anymore now. I don't know where you are with that, but for me, I don't even care to. Do you? Yeah, not me anymore. Not me anymore. So, over the last 20 years, in this fast forward a little bit to today, you see your outside individuals, they see this title agency owner. And I loved how you already put it out there. It wasn't an overnight success, right? And oftentimes, especially in this instant gratification era that we live in, that's really paramount that you clarify that, because oftentimes outside looking in, it's like, ooh, 40 million. Okay, cool. That sounds easy. And they think they can achieve that. Right. It also assumes, with that, the funding and so forth. Was there a moment early on where you thought, we ain't going to make it? We're not going to make rent? Or were there any moments where it was getting real? Hey, real quick before we keep going, if you've been listening to this conversation and something hit a nerve, if something we talked about made you pause, or you felt that little tug in your chest like, man, that one was for me, I want you to lean into that for a second. Don't just brush it off. Because here's the thing. Conversations like this, yes, they're great. And I love doing this show. I really do. But if I'm being real with you, a conversation can only take you so far. At some point, you got to stop nodding along and actually do something with that feeling. So here's what I want you to do. I want to personally invite you to something we built called the Reforge Challenge. It's a live 5-day experience I created specifically for people like you. High performers who know they're capable of more, but something got knocked sideways and your old playbook just stopped working. Or maybe life smacked you in the face with a 2x4 that you just didn't see coming. Maybe the fire just dimmed and you can't figure out how to reignite it. 5 days, 5 real identity shifts, live coaching, real community, in the kind of honest conversations that actually move the needle. Not just another thing you consume and forget by Friday. Listen, you're not broken. You're just in between versions. And I'd love for you to come see what we've built. Head on over to reforgechallenge.com. Again, reforgechallenge.com. Check it out. See if it speaks to you. And if it does, I'll see you inside. All right, let's get back to it.
There was a moment, actually this came probably during the 2020, the COVID shutdown. Oh, you would sell a pencil and it would sell immediately, right? Yeah. So everybody was at home, everybody had money. So that was the opportunity for us to increase our sales and grow. So we actually took out a loan with Amazon for about $130,000 so we could grow. And we did. Had a major, a big brand. They loved us so much. They're like, yes, go for it, and we explained to them what we were going to do. And they're like, yes, we want to grow. We want to see our sales increase. So we bought inventory and we would keep on selling out. Like, so one thing with Amazon, you cannot sell out. So we had to increase our prices and increase our prices. But it didn't just stay with COVID. It kept on going. It kept on going. It kept on going. But there was a point that we were too much for this brand, and the brand decided just to completely shut us down. And we were doing so good. I felt like we were helping them and supporting them, their employees, supporting their families, but all of a sudden, like, it was like a blink of an eye. Like the next day, it's like, you know what? We're not going to fill your orders anymore. And we had orders for like this order with them is like $200,000, and they just completely shut it down. So it was like a strain because
crazy.
Yeah. And it was devastating because we still had the loan from Amazon. So, and they're not going to forgive us. I cannot explain to them.
Nope.
Oh, guess what?
They don't care.
Yeah, they don't care at all. So it was a big burden on our family. Still wants their money. It was a negative on our Amazon. We would continue selling because we had other products, right? But every single thing that we would sell, it would go to pay the loan. So there was months that we couldn't probably pay. There were months that we couldn't pay for our mortgage. It was probably 2 or 3 months, but we didn't go to foreclosure because we had to pivot quick. But that quick still took time. Cool. It still took time. And then we realized that Amazon is not our business partner. Amazon is just a platform that we're going to go play in their territory. So we had to pivot, we had to change. And now what we do is we had to act fast, and we made Amazon be our lead generator and not our business. So, and everything is, it is TOS compliant. We're not doing anything bad, but we completely switched. And now we feel like we actually have a business and not just we're playing on somebody else's background.
Yeah.
But we had to pivot even more because now we're like, what we know the ins and the outs, and how much can you talk, how much can you spread yourself, and how to talk to vendors and make sure, like, talk to vendors clearly. I can sell you out. Do you have the bandwidth to withhold?
Yes.
Withhold that. And if not, then it's very, very, you're walking on thin ice. So now that we know what we know is now with that knowledge, now we're able to help other Amazon sellers or other Shopify or eBay sellers. That's what we pivoted. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that all great points. And I want to unpack some of this because there's a few things you mentioned in your bio, which, I hope every entrepreneur is paying attention to, and any seasoned entrepreneur, founder, builder can definitely resonate the statement you made. You need to learn when to pivot and pivot fast, right?
Oh, yeah.
Before we dive into that, because that's something I definitely want to unpack for everybody that's listening or watching, especially as a parent. I really want to highlight this for a moment because you mentioned this as this is a pain point. And I can resonate with this, because you initially started this business to be home, right? You started this venture to this new life to be home with your kids and so forth, but that wasn't the reality, was it?
At points, no, there were our ups and our downs because I started homeschooling the kids. They would take time for me, but at the beginning it was probably I was doing it more, but since my husband saw what I was doing, he left his job to come on board.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So he's like, okay, what are you doing over there? Like, what was happening over there? So he put like, oh, okay. I see what you're doing. Let's do it together. So he was taking a lot of the weight and a lot of the processes. So I could be able to in the morning, since when you're homeschool, I don't know, homeschool before, but in a homeschool parent, I feel like I could give so much to my kids in the mornings. And then I could leave them off. Okay, do your worksheets later. So it's not like a regular traditional school that they just teach them a little bit and then they go home and do all this homework. It's completely different. So I was able to homeschool my kids probably till lunchtime because we have to wake up early. So that's one of the things that we have to do is wake up early. We wake up.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Do Bible in the mornings, start our school. By lunchtime, I would get them the lunch, and then that's where I would like come alongside my husband and help.
I love that you mentioned, homeschool, several times. And I think there's a mass, I'll call it evolution for lack of a way of saying it, going towards that route, especially since COVID occurred. It really put the spotlight on homeschooling, and we did that for our own kids, and yeah, we started them young, and for the most part, they finished the homeschool. The only exception was that with our high school, and that was for sports reasons and so
Right.
forth. That was before the Tebow, Tim Tebow Act. But
I understand.
yeah, the homeschooling can be. I recommend that for any family, actually every family, not any, but every family, because it really allows you to control what they're being taught, what the core values are, and so forth. And to your point, you can be done with a school day within a few hours because you don't have 20 kids that's trying to learn one principle 20 different ways, right?
Right.
You're able to condense that time. The attention span's better. Anybody that's listening, I definitely recommend if you have a family or if you're soon to be a family, definitely look into homeschooling. Take us to a point, because, a lot of people out there, especially those that are venturing into entrepreneurship, or they're new, or maybe they've forgotten because they've had to pivot into something completely different or so forth. They got desensitized, or maybe they haven't been exposed to this. But take us to a moment where you realize the dream had become a nightmare. Could have been, the loan you guys had taken out, over $130,000, or maybe another scenario. Take us to a moment where the dream had become a nightmare.
I'll take you back to that scenario because I felt like I want to quit. That's it. We're quitting. We're getting ready to go to jobs. The kids are going to school. I mean, that was it. That was it.
Yes.
Can you believe that I couldn't get myself to go look for a job and then think about clocking in and then clocking out? I believe that I couldn't. I would go to Indeed, Apple One, all those places. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I have to now clock in, clock out, leave my kids again. And that's not the life that I wanted for them. My husband too, he was like, see ourselves like that. But I don't know what inspired us to just keep going. I don't know. It was probably the grace of God that is like, no, I have something else for you. Do that. But those are the moments that you just want to quit. You have no grit. You're like, I'm done. I'm finished. But there was one thing that actually, a neighbor told me this when I used to have, we used to talk and she had problems with her kids, or I would talk to her. I was a young person, but she always told me this, Diana, remember this and remember this till the day you die. This too shall pass. And now I'm like, and at the moment you don't realize that those words, those wise words from that lady, I couldn't realize. I'm like, oh, okay, this too shall pass. Yeah. But I don't know how many times have I said that to myself. This too shall pass. This is not the end all and be all. Like, wait, be patient. And it's just one little hump that you're going to go through, and just see it played out and find other avenues. Get yourself a coach, because sometimes you can't do it all by yourself. You need somebody to hold your hand and walk you through it. Like when I actually was a homeschool director while I was helping my husband with the business, I was also a homeschool director. And my first year, I had to get a coach. I know I had to get a coach because I have to deal with legal because of the insurance company. I had to deal with facilities, like the renting the facilities. I had to deal with all the parents that are bringing in their children. I couldn't do it by myself. So I had to get a coach. So that coach, she was like my right hand. I would call her, okay, this is happening. Help. And again, I would stress out and I'm like, this is not for me. I'm going to quit. But then that little thing in my head, this too shall pass, and it's going to get easier.
Yes.
By the third year, I could do it with my eyes closed. So,
nice.
So I saw that over and over in my life. This is going to pass. So
thank you so much for sharing that. Because you remind me, almost 95% of my entrepreneurial journey. I don't think I wanted to quit less each day, right? By you laughing, you know what I'm talking about here.
Yes.
But there was not a day where I was just like, I'm done. Either because of the Amazon nuances, or because of life nuances, or business nuances, or just whatever, just life, right? And you said it perfectly. This too shall pass. On the other side too, as you said this, I don't know if you saw this video, but it was a round table of celebrities with Tom Hanks and a few other actors, and they were talking about different things, grit and so forth. And Tim Hanks, I don't remember the whole conversation and so forth, but he to your point, he said, yes, just remember when you're going through the thick, when you're going through the trenches, just remember this too shall pass. Mm-hmm. Also, when you're going through those high moments, remember this too shall pass, right? Yep. We go through these valleys, we go through the peaks, we go through the valleys, and we have to have those, right?
Tony Robbins
for sharing it.
Tony Robbins talks about that all the time. Like we go through seasons in life. Yeah, we have our highs and our lows, but there's always a season. So
yes, agree. I agree. Thank you for sharing that. Speaking of season, right? You went through a season, especially early on, and for me, anytime I go through a season, anytime I go through an event or a time or whatever, I always try to look back and reflect, like, what can I have learned from that, right? Like, what was the message that guy was trying to teach me, or what was he trying to tell me? What was it that I need to, to get away from, to take from that, right? Because one thing I've learned, and I'm sure you can, resonate with this, it was a phrase that Ed Milet says, life doesn't happen to you, it happens for you, right? And I love that, so, in the season, that you're early on, if I remember correctly, you mentioned in your bio that you felt like you've lost time with your firstborn or with your first child, right? You wish that you could. Well, let me ask you this. Is there, in that season, would you wish that you could go back and tell Diana to do something differently?
Oh, I would not have it any other way. Yes, there was a lot of downs and ups, but I have enjoyed being with my children and being able to homeschool them and being as much time as I've had with them, because I have seen other parents that they would long to do that and they can't. And we have sacrificed ourselves. Yes, we've had just eaten rice and beans at home. Yes, we've gone through that. But I prefer to do that and go take the kids to the park and see them grow up and have them know that I'm always there for them. But they wouldn't have any other way. Like if I were to go back to work, I think they'll freak out. Like, what? You're going to go to work? Where are you going? Like they would not accept that.
Yeah, that's an excellent point too. If you think about it for a second, we're parents, right? We're supposed to be setting the example, right? So let's put it from the example perspective. If we go and quit, right, and we go back to get a job, and don't get me wrong, there are times that probably is warranted, all right?
Yes.
Right. But generally speaking, without the asterisks applied, what kind of example are you setting for your family, right? Is it okay to quit, right? When things get hard, when things get tough, because, business is no exception. Life is tough. And I'm including business, I'm including everything as that umbrella term, right? Life is tough, whether you're in a career or you're badass, stay-at-home mom, homeschooling 3 kids, homeschool director 2. You've got, mention that. So that kind of really inflates the resume there. But life is tough. And speaking of which, there's something you put in your bio talking about picking your hard. Elaborate on that.
Actually, I got this from Layla Harmosi. Like,
yes,
hard. Pick it hard. What hard are you going to do? Because they're both hard. So they're hard. So like, eeny, meeny, miny, mo. That's what my kids always say. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Like, what hard are you willing to take?
Agree. And I think I heard it from the same person, and I've heard it from other people too. But I mean, being fat is hard, but so as, for going to the gym, being, disciplined in staying, financially, or, staying conscious of your health, and being financially disciplined is hard. Yeah. So is being broke. Right. Yeah, I mean, you really have to choose your heart and which one's going to give you the greatest impact, greatest ROI. So let's dive into this pivot, right? Because you talked about, the dungeon, right? You gave us an insight of, some of the, the adversities that happen. I can't imagine, if somebody wanted to turn away a $200,000 or $300,000 order, right, to grow some, but it happens. I've heard it from numerous clients where they were shut down because they were growing too fast. And it's like, that's kind of like, that doesn't make sense to me, but okay. So we talked about, this dungeon aspect. Then it occurred to you, like, and you alluded to this, Diana, but you talked about this pivot you guys realized that you needed to make, right? It was this moment you realized that Amazon isn't a business. And I agree with you. I've been in a space for a very long time, and I've seen it destroy livelihoods, unfortunately. Can it be a great thing? Sure. I'm not going to say it's not, right? But you realize where it was essentially becoming a job for you, right? You're essentially the tenant, whereas Amazon served as a landlord, right? You're,
Right.
essentially leasing, space from them that could evict you at any second they felt like it, right? So that being said, walk us through the shift. Like, how did you move from being $130,000 in debt, or over $130,000 in debt, with successes and some wins in Amazon and e-commerce, to now you're shifting into something different? Talk us through that.
The reason that we shifted, actually, to tell you the truth, we're still on Amazon, but like I said, now we use it as a lead generator. Because again, Amazon could just shut us down real quick. They change their minds all the time. Like, one day we could do this, the next day you can't do it. So it's unbelievable. But yeah, through trial and error, we did have a coach that helped us and guided us. Like, you know what? You guys know so much already. Like, why don't you guys just help other people that are coming into the business why don't you start being a helpful hand for them? And so that coach he just completely opened up our minds to, like, oh my goodness, we could help other people, and for them not to go through the same mistakes that we've gone, and know when to scale, know when to pause, and not get the bottlenecks, work on the cash flow. Like, there's so many little things and nuances, but everybody wants to get on Amazon because they're like, oh, we're going to be so rich, we're going to get so much money. But I'm like, wait, but we should be like a voice out there to just tell the truth, what exactly is happening. Yes, you can make millions. It's amazing what Amazon could help you do.
Yeah.
Okay. But again, what we learned is Amazon is not our business. It's just a playground that we go and play at. And they could change their mind, and they could kick us out, and they could change the rules and whenever they feel like it. So thinking that what our coach told us what to do is like, okay, let's do it. But we still keep Amazon on our background because we test a lot of things to see if something is going to hit, if something's not going to hit. And then that's how we tell our clients, okay, this is good to go, this is not good to go. Or, you know what, let's move forward and let's create you a Shopify. Let's create you some funnels. Maybe that could increase your sales even more. You don't have to be dependent on all the Amazon's fees and things like that. So we're that's what we're doing right now. Now we're helping other people, not necessarily leave Amazon, but for Amazon to be one of their lead gens as well.
Yeah, that's a good approach. And one of my previous guests, he just recently exited Amazon completely. Long-time guy, been on a platform, and he's pivoted more into TikTok. And now he reminds me of you. He got into TikTok and became really successful with it. And now he's helping other brand owners and entrepreneurs leverage the TikTok Shop platform, and it's actually becoming a serious threat to Amazon because the amount of volume that goes through TikTok is just insane.
Yeah.
Right. And he mentioned about testing, TikTok as a way of launching brands to Amazon, using that funnel, that traffic, over to Amazon. And because, I'm sure you can test this, on Amazon, launching brands is not cheap, right?
No.
You do have to pay to play.
Oh, yeah.
Whether it's launching brands, launching products, whatever, you do have to pay to play. And there's no, guarantee at all. You're paying up front, in fact, right?
Right.
And with TikTok, you're paying influencers, and there's really, nothing up front that's involved with that. So I love the pivot you did there, because oftentimes, we hit our heads against the walls, right? We hit our head, and we just, some of us are stubborn. We don't know when we need to pivot or when we need to give up or any of this, And I like to do this for a moment. Talk to that person, right? Because you talk about adaptation, you talk about pivoting and doing it fast, right? In fact, I'll quote you what you said in your bio, man. You said that you need to adapt fast or you pay the price.
Yeah.
right? So let's talk to the individuals out there right now that is banging their head against the wall, right? Because there's a lot of entrepreneurs out there, especially in e-commerce, that's probably hitting walls because of brand shutdowns, gatings, and those who are listening are like, what the heck are they saying? But these are the nuances of these platforms that you have to play with, right? It may not even be just e-commerce. It may be this, and they're in a business right now, and they're hitting their head against the wall because they feel like they cannot move forward, right? They're putting all this work, they're putting all this effort in, but they're not seeing the results. And of course, we hear just keep pushing forward, right? Keep pushing forward. But you mentioned a very specific phrase in your bio, right? You need to adapt fast or you pay the price. And I cannot agree more, right? You, as a founder, as a builder, you've got to learn when to pivot, adapt, or you do pay the price. And you got to do it fast. You can't hem and haw. You can't, be indecisive. You've got to go, right? So talk to this person, because there's probably someone like, Diana girl, I hear what you're saying. I love what you're saying, but I'm like scared. Yeah. So talk to that person for a moment.
I don't know everything. So it probably seems like, oh, but you know a lot of stuff. But no, I don't know nothing. My brain doesn't capture a lot of stuff. So knowing that about me and knowing what my capabilities of what I could do and what I cannot do, I have to always have somebody with me. At the beginning, when I started my business, I lost so much money. Trying and error. Yes, I made a lot of money. I also lost a lot of money because I didn't know a lot of things. But once I started figuring it out, that I have to get a coach that knows, that has been through what I've been going through, it was so much easier for me just to like, you know what? I'll pay you. I don't care how much I need to pay you. But I know, like, if I pay you $5, I know you're going to give me 10. Or I know if you're going to, if I have I'm stuck here, I know you're going to show me and tell me, give me the house on how to push through and move forward. So I always have had a coach. I have not been in the business without a coach, either a life coach, a business coach, somebody that can help me push through. Because again, like I said, I don't know everything. And yes, I could probably watch a YouTube video. Yes, I could go to ChatGPT. Yes, I could go to Instagram and follow my influencers. I could go watch TikTok videos, reels. I know I could do all of that, but I cannot go ask them questions. They can't understand where I'm going through, and they cannot hold my hand and help me through. So I've always had that person. So if I were to tell somebody, like, I have done, is like, don't question it. Like from the beginning, like, what you want to do is, I feel like it's like a shortcut. Because sometimes I feel like when I didn't have, like, it will take me like years to figure certain things. And then I would get a coach like, by next week, we're done.
Yes.
Scaling this, like, oh my goodness, why did I wait so long to even call you? Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I highly recommend the coach.
Thank you. That's a great point. I agree wholeheartedly. Trust me. As we're talking about this, there was a large part of my life where I was very anti-coach, right? For a couple of reasons. And that was coming from the lack mindset. I've really had to change my mindset, my perspective on coaching and the value that it brings. To your point, you were talking about, I could go on YouTube and I could go on the internet. At that point in time, there, ChatGPT wasn't ChatGPT, right? Or what it is today. So you really have to put a value, like how important is it to you and how much is it going to cost you in lost opportunity cost and time and energy, where you're taking a 2-year time span or a 1-year time span for you to learn through trial and error, losing money on bad decisions, right? Versus just hiring somebody who's already gone the path, who's already seen this path, knows all this stuff, that could press that timeline from a year down to, a couple of weeks, maybe a couple of months.
Mm-hmm.
But aside from that too, you highlighted this too, but I want to pinpoint this because especially what's happened in the last 4 or 5 years, 5 or 6 years, we've gotten really isolated, right? We really have gotten isolated in the sense that we've forgotten we've forgotten about relationships, right? Real human connection, and surrounding yourself with people, that are, I wouldn't say like-minded, but they're all on the same journey, right? Growth oriented and so forth. So, would it be fair to say that part of this growth is really about, now in addition to just having a coach, but also, evaluating your environment, i.e. friends, your inner corner, framework that I have for, people you have in your life, your inner, 5 or 6 people that are close to you. Would it be fair to say, or would you agree that that's probably one of the most crucial points or crucial aspects of growth for you and your business?
I've always had a coach. The coaches that I have had, they've also had like masterminds and inner circles. And I've been always part of those inner circles because you get to meet a lot of people. You get to network. You get to talk about what's happening in their businesses. So you're not only the coach is coaching you through certain things, but it's like that environment that you're in. And you can see and you can hear what's happening on everybody. So I think I've built so many good relationships with people, and some of them are my friends, and we can relate. Like I wouldn't be able to relate to certain people, some of my friends or some of my family members, because of the business that I'm at. With these people, they could completely understand where I'm coming from, and I could completely understand where they're coming from, and I can help them and they can help me. So when I say I have a coach, yes, I have a coach, but I've gone a little bit more in depth with them, and I've gotten to be in their inner circle. So I could get to know and learn about other businesses, not necessarily just Amazon, but in other businesses and other sectors as well.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. This all boils down to the phrase or the adage that we hear a lot. You're the sum of the average, or you're the average of 5 people, or the sum of 5 people that you hang out with, right?
Right.
And this goes back to partially answering, the question I asked earlier. If you smash your head against the wall and you're trying to go this alone, you're going to be inside your head too much, and you're going to allow these voices. And I'm not talking about the schizophrenia type of voices, right? If that's you, then I'm right there with you. No kidding. But, joking aside from a moment, you've got to surround yourself with people that are growth focused, that can help you through if it's not a coach, you've got to put yourself, put people in your corner that can guide you, that could be a sounding board, that can help you get out of your own head. That was one of the biggest things I had to learn the hard way, of course. Fortunately, unfortunately, depending on perspective, but I had to have that, and I'm sure you could agree because, to your point, having people that has a lot more relatability, that knows what it's like to be a homeschool mom of 2 or 3 or 5 or 6 people, and to do some of the things you've done, there's a lot more relatability there. You can cross-pollinate ideas and experiences, and there's just so much more growth that occurs there.
Yes.
And so 100%.
Yeah.
So you mentioned in your profile or in your questionnaire, and I can really resonate with this. You talk about leadership. Weight is one of the heaviest things that you carry right now. Can you give us some more insight on that?
To leadership in the business that I'm, or as in family, or
family, business, any aspect.
Okay, so in leadership, I always lean on towards my husband. So I always lean on him to guide our family. And so he's like my rock, my solid. So, but I have enjoyed helping him so much. And sometimes some of my friends think that like it's me because they see me on social media or things like, okay, Diana, it's all you. I'm like, but it's not just me. It's a team that I have behind me. Yeah. And, as in leadership, I do want to help other women, not just, like my mom says, she always tells me nobody puts my baby in the corner. And I'm like, no, Mom, I'm not in a corner. I'm okay. So, but the way she says it is like, sometimes as women, sometimes we're like put aside to the side, but we have a lot to give. And we have a lot of knowledge, but it's up to us to go look for that knowledge, go look for those skills, go look for all that. If I were to start all over again, if I may say this as a leader, I would say I would completely, okay, I love the Amazon. I love the shopping, I love it, all of it. But I think one thing that I was missing at the beginning was marketing. I did not know how to market certain things. Now that I know what I know and through my process and everything, is like, that's the number one thing. If you can't make it rain, then don't Like, it's not going to work out. You need to learn how to make it rain. And people that make it rain are the marketers, because they know how to test. They know what's coming in. They do know their research. And so that's one thing in leadership that I feel like probably I failed at the beginning, but now I've realized that, to take me to my next level of, because like I said, I don't know a lot of things, but I always like to grow. I always want to learn. And this is just one aspect of my leadership that, for me to help and guide. And then leadership if I can add a little bit more on leadership of my family, is that I am homeschooling 3 boys, and I want them to be men of their household, right? And and they already know, like, oh, when I get married, I'm going to have my wife take care of my kids, and she's going to homeschool them. So that's what I've been ingrained on them. And they like this dynamic. And now my oldest,
Nice.
now he's working with us, and he's amazing. He creates funnels for some of our clients that, they were like probably at 5 digits. Now they're at 6, 7 digits, after a few months, depending on their bandwidth that they get withhold. So he's loving that side of the business. And then my middle child, he's my golfer. Anything golf, he loves it. So I'm like, okay, let's do a business around golf. And that, so I'm trying to like lead my family towards that.
Yeah. I love what you're doing right there. I love the fact that you're inspiring your kids for the next generation, right? Inspiring for the men that you'd want them to be for their wives, right? That's amazing. My business mind is also saying, man, you're inspiring your kids to chase after, businesses that's in alignment of their passions, right? Trying to find, businesses or ways to monetize what they're already passionate about, what they're already doing, programming their minds to find opportunities to make money, right? And doing that at an early age, I think that really sets the stage, and really, just sets the stage for how they can attack life, rather than just throwing them into a job and say, good luck, I love that mission that you just created, or the mission that you just brought out. And speaking of mission, let's dive more into that, because you're very very specific on this mission. And this mission right now you're currently building, I want to hear more about this mission that you're on. You kind of alluded to it, but I want you to speak directly to that person right now that fits your mission. What is your mission right now?
So my mission right now is I want to help other ladies starting their business. I'm for it. I'm there to be a support and help you start up your business. I'm actually helping a lady right now that she just graduated. But she doesn't know where to go from there, but she knows that she wants to start her own business. So we're helping her do a whole game plan for her.
That's awesome.
So first, we're going to start with organic, and then we'll do paid later, but that's where we're at right now. But we also have bigger clients that we recently, probably like 2-3 years ago, that we started the Atlas marketing team. And what we do now is, if I have some clients that if they're doing 10 a month, now we help them increase to 30. Or we have clients that are at 30, we help them increase their sales. We have a client that are at 6 figures. Then they went to 7, and that's like so amazing to see. And guess what? And it was one of my oldest son is the one that helped. Like, he's like, Mom, we're going to do this and we're going to do that. I'm like, and
That's
then my husband is
awesome.
like, because we sit down together and we explore. It's not like just me. Like, okay, what am I going to do? Or are we sitting down with ChatGPT? No, it's like a team. Like, okay, we have this person, this client. This is where they're at the moment. These are their goals and these are their dreams, and they want this in this amount of time. So what can we do? So us three, we get together and we just explore and the opportunities, and we map out the whole system for them. So that's where we're at the moment. We just want to see other people grow. And if people are starting out, like, I'm there for you. You want to start with e-commerce? I'm there for you. I can show you the ropes, and it's simple. I tell my friends, like, it's, just if you want to know a little bit about it, just open your closet. Okay. You have purses, you have shoes, start selling on eBay, and then see. So because those are the little stepping stones that teach you how to, like, put an item on eBay and how to ship it out, little things like that.
Yeah.
Can help.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that mission. You're very specific. You didn't put this, but I'll say it for you, Diana. You mentioned that your goal right now is to work with 12 moms this year to help them build their businesses online. So, moms, if this fits you, you better be reaching out to Diana, because I personally have watched this amazing young woman, go on this journey with her family, and I love the fact that you're very family oriented. And I want to stress this for a moment, because when I look at my family, I think that's probably one of the biggest things I wish I had done differently. It was to become more family oriented. Because when I look at my grandmother, she was a staple of our family, right? Like every holiday, everybody would go to grandma's, right? And, we just hang out and fellowship and, get fat, or fatter, and when I look back, that was her life. It was all about the family. And if you look at society right now, that's been lost. Largely, that's been lost. In my opinion, in my belief, I think that's been largely lost, where the emphasis is keeping the family together. And I really want to take a moment just to really say thank you for doing that, because that really puts the focus on why family is important and showing that families are important, right? Families that play together, stay together. The families that do business together, stay together, right? And I just want to highlight that, because, today's society, it seems to be vilified in some ways, where, in fact, I know some families where, they haven't heard from their kids in 5-6 years. That pains me to hear that, especially, I'm sure you can resonate with that, how painful that could be. Yeah, that would hurt, right? So again, I just want to say thank you, because I think a lot of families need to hear it. A lot of moms, dads, myself included, need to hear that.
I could add something to that.
Absolutely, go for it.
I feel like if I didn't start this business back then, like I wouldn't be able to do all the things. Yes, okay. I was my own boss, so I had my own hours. Yes, I was able to like okay, today let's go to Disney, or today let's go to the park. Middle of the day.
Let's go to Disney. Yeah, let's go.
Yeah, let's go. So I felt like I had so much flexibility. I know for a fact if my husband as well, and we know for a fact if we had a regular job, and of course, if we need a job, you need a job. You need to feed your family. You need to pay the bills. So if there are times like you got to go do that, at least one of them, you go work, you go clock in and clock out, and I'll stay with the kids behind, and then we'll do the other business, but I think we wouldn't have been able to do all the fun activities. Like we would go on little mini vacations, even like, oh, okay, we don't have that much. Everything went to FBA, because we shipped FBA. So I'm like, everything went to ship FBA. We don't have to do any shipping or anything like that for FBM. So let's just take off. So we'll take off in the middle of the week, things like that. But I know we would not be able to do none of that. And they still remember. They're like, oh, when are we going to go on another vacation? Like we did like a little mini vacation a couple of weeks ago. And so they're like waiting for the next one. Like, so when are we going to go again? But
that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Thanks.
So I think that's a major reason why I do this probably. And then I'll go with the ups and downs of the business just to be more available to my kids.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Yeah. And I think being a founder, entrepreneur, especially in online space, it does give you a large degree of freedom. It certainly does, especially in today's times. I mean, there is so much that you can do online. Yeah. I was, telling my wife this not too long ago. It's like, we could literally go anywhere right now. I mean, especially in my season of life, I could literally, go anywhere and, and do what I do and live especially the way AI is now and internet and so forth. So,
just go to a place where they have good internet, because we've been to places bad internet. I'm like, I need to go.
Yeah. Unless you're that type of person who needs a vacation, then probably no internet's best for you. So, but let's get into some tactics here, because you mentioned something in your profile that you alluded to a little bit, or I want to nail down some tactics here, because in your profile, you mentioned a protocol, which I love. In fact, it really reminded me of a phrase by an author of one of some books you have in your background there, Alex Hormozy. One market, one product, one funnel.
Wow.
So help us, the audience and those listening right now, how simplifying, because that's really the philosophy of this, right? Simplifying actually leads to this $40 million result. Walk us through the math, because a lot of individuals right now are probably like, that doesn't make sense to me, right? So help those that are like thinking this through, simplify that for them. Like, walk us through the math.
Sometimes we make it too complicated. And like I said, at the beginning, when you don't know, right? So I've made knowing what I know now, and I'm a fan of Alex Hormozy. So yes, we have to simplify it. Like for these 12 ladies that I want to take through this year, we're only going to focus on one market, one product, one sales process, and one traffic. That's all we're going to do. Just one. And the compound of that, it's $1 million company. If I could say that, I don't know if I could say numbers.
Yeah.
And like, absolutely. Because, okay, if we get one product, let's say we sell them at $25, okay, and we sell $25 each, and we have 25 sales a day, and if we get 4 of those products, because we take it a little at a time, that's $1 million company right there and then with 4 products. And I have done it. It's not like I just like, just saying it, but I have done it. But I've done it on Amazon, and we have done one product with on funnels. So it could happen, but it starts small. We don't have to overcomplicate it. But I know people are like, but how do you do that? But if they want to know a little bit more of how to do that, I'm definitely, they could send me a DM or anything, and we could discuss it, and they could be one of my 12. But yeah, it's awesome. As simple as that.
Yeah, I agree. Thanks for sharing that. And I can speak to the entrepreneur who typically overcomplicates things or overthinks things, right? And hindsight, of course, hindsight's always 20/20,
right?
But it really reminds me of this phrase by Alex Hormozy that we both like and follow. And don't make me niche slap you, right? Yeah. Really niche down and just stay small, stay simple, and then once you've bolted down, right, you can gradually expand and so forth. So
exactly.
Thanks for sharing that. As we're starting to pivot into, especially in AI, in this realm of AI, you mentioned ChatGPT several times, and I know as an entrepreneur, I use AI just about every single day. We pretty much have to these days, but there is another side, or the other perspective of AI, especially with the rapid evolvement of AI, because you mentioned something in your profile, which I specifically loved or love, that with the rapid takeover of AI. When I say takeover, it's just like it's everywhere, like ChatGPT, Claude, image and video and all of this. And in fact, it's getting to the point where I don't even know what I trust on the internet now.
I know.
It is becoming more and more important for human connection, right? Can you elaborate more on your thoughts and beliefs of is that true, right? Is human connection more important now, or more needed? But so what are your thoughts behind that?
The business sense, everything that we do, like I felt like we have lost that connection with. I'm going to talk about being a buyer, because I'm also a buyer for the company. So I'm going to talk in that sense. Okay. So I feel like back, if I could say, like a couple years ago, like when I used to buy things, like when I did my purchase order and everything, I would always call them on the phone, and I would have that connection. And I'm like, come on, you could give me a better deal than that. I was always able to negotiate with them and talk to them. I'm like, I need bigger terms, things like that. But then everybody moved to a place like, oh, you just place orders online. But I would place my order online, but I would still connect with the people. Hey, I placed an order, or how are you doing? I haven't talked to you for a while, but I still like that relationship, because yes, AI has taken over so much of our stuff. but I can relate to that because when I do product descriptions and everything, I do use AI for things like that. Yes, I'm saving myself a lot of money on paying the copywriter because it made, in my business, before we used to pay the copywriter to do all these product descriptions, but now we're saving that money because now we could use AI and then probably we could use them in other senses of the business, like probably email marketing or something else. But yeah, AI has taken over. And like you said, you can even hardly believe what's in the news anymore or when you watch something. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, is that AI? Is that real? Until you see somebody burp or something like that. I'm like, oh yeah, that's real.
Yeah,
that's real life. but yeah, it's taking over. But I don't know. I'm old school, I think. I'm like an old school person, so I really liked the connection with people. And I don't know if you heard me today, but I'm a talker. I love to talk.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome.
I'm not a person that I could just like be with the AI. I'm like, talk to me, argue with me, say something.
Yeah. Oh, I've gotten into some heated arguments with ChatGPT for sure.
Yes, I don't listen. I'm like, I didn't say
that. Yeah. Oh, I know. I know. Yep. Do what I tell you. I'm going to pack you up and ship you to Russia. Yeah. That was something that Dan Martell shared in one of his videos.
Oh, yeah.
But real quickly as we start to wrap up here, you mentioned a challenge in your bio that I will love for every person, whether you're an entrepreneur, builder, or whatever. I think everybody can incorporate this into their life. But you issued a challenge accepted, by the way, to cut the extra stuff for 90 days, right? So somebody's listening right now. Like I said earlier, Diana, I love what you're saying right now. And it's probably that person who's drowning, right? Drowning in complexity, drowning in overcomplicated, overthinking island. Guilty as charged. How would they begin that process in cutting the extra stuff?
Some stuff that can't be delegated. But sometimes I don't know what's the fear of delegating. Throughout my years, like I probably at the beginning, I'm like, no, because they're not going to do it as how I want it. But now like people are doing so much things way better than me and way faster than me. So for me, it's easier for me. Like, okay, one thing is delegate. In your personal life, sometimes what I tell my kids to do, because again, I'm a homeschool mama, and my husband is like, okay, what did you do all day? You only have 4 subjects of class. Like, I mean, it's like 4 o'clock and you're still doing school. No, there's something wrong. So we have them write down every little thing what they do, like from time to time, like from this time to this time, I did this, from this time to this time, and see, where did they spend their time dilly-dallying, and then try to regain control in your life on that, and focus on what does work and focus on what's not working. But yeah, number one thing is a delegating. But I know, like I said, it's hard. It's probably going to cost you money, but it's going to save you so much time. And sometimes you really do need something like that. Just somebody guiding you and helping you.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. One of the things that one of my coaches challenged me to on that's in alignment of that was to do not an inventory audit, but an energy audit or a time management audit. Mm-hmm. Right. And if you haven't read the book, Buy Back Your Time, and anybody that's listening, I definitely recommend that, because to your point, I think that's a very important read for anybody, whether you're an entrepreneur, founder, builder, business owner, whatever, or you're a stay-at-home mom, homeschool mom. Definitely recommend reading that book, because it's really about buying back your time, to do the things that you can only do, the things you enjoy, that fulfills you, that lights you up. Right. And I used to be that person for a long time, and that say, I can, pretty much a control freak, right? Or this fear of letting go. And one of my good friends, who I think Jimmy Smith, was like, monkeys could do, everything you do, right? Like, we train other people to do the same thing you've already learned to do. So how can somebody else not learn? It's like, shoot, gotcha. All right. But yeah, that's a good point for sure. Thank you for sharing it. As we wrap up, Diana, I want to go through a kind of like I say rapid fire, but it's more of just like, some insights in some, some very specific areas. We're going to try to wrap this up. But first off, and I love your definition, but I want you to share this with the audience. You're in this season that you're in, because every season could be different when it comes down to grit, right? Right now, as a homeschool mom of 3, running an agency, and homeschool director, and and everything else you have going on, how does grit or how do you define grit in this season of life?
Just so you know, I stopped being the homeschool director because I'm taking more time. My kids are getting older now; they're in sports, so there's more things going on. So I couldn't manage golf and volleyball and all that stuff with that. So things again, going back to delegating. What suits you, do it now. If it doesn't suit you, just push it to the side. So what grit defines for me is like, it's not giving up. That's the one thing. It's don't give up on your dreams. Don't give up on what you want to do, how you want your life to look like, because life is really short. One day we're here, tomorrow we're not. Yes. We're like fleeting. It's like a flower that one day blooms, the next day is dead. So have that moment. If you have that moment, if you don't do it now, that grit now, have that energy, that something that drives you, something that's passion for you, but do it now. Don't wait till tomorrow, because tomorrow might not come. So that's grit for me.
What you just said right there, finding what drives you and passion. And since we mentioned both of these names, I think we mentioned both of these names. There was a recent video that was aired, or I say aired, but published on YouTube, between Alex Hormozi and Tony Robbins. Mm-hmm.
Right.
And it
saw
that was probably one of the mice. It's blown up the internet. It is blown up the internet for the right reasons, right. Or rightfully so. Right. I mean, that needed to happen, in my opinion, because I could definitely share in a lot of what Hormozi have gone through, in the sense of coming from the perspective of screw happiness and just focus on duty, whereas Tony is like, nope, it works until it doesn't. Right. And so I love that perspective of focusing on your fire, focus on what drives you, and let that focus or let that drive pull you to really build a fulfilling life. Mm-hmm. So I'm of the belief that, especially in this season of life I'm in, there's always this talk about adding new habits, new systems, new processes, new plans, and strategies, and blah, 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 right? In order to grow. Mm-hmm. But, growth also requires subtraction, right? Subtraction of habits, friction points, beliefs, things you've had to unlearn, right? So what is one thing either you're doing now or you've had to unlearn or unbelieve? Yeah, grammar, please leave me alone. That you had to unbelief yourself with in order to level up?
I have had a lot of struggle learning to communicate. And my belief, even when I was a child, like, speak right. We don't understand you. So I've always had that in me. Like, people cannot, like, I don't know how to communicate correctly. And that was one of my beliefs that I had because of people that surrounded. And when I was in elementary and high school, people would bully me or say things to me that but I've always had that with me. Like, I don't know how to communicate. Have a simple language, but now I'm like, it's okay to have a simple language. Who cares? Like, yeah. But I think I had the fear of men. Like, I never wanted to speak out loud. I never wanted to show myself. I always wanted to just be in a corner. Don't say anything. That's why I did e-commerce, because nobody knew who I am. Nobody knows what I'm doing. I'm just shopping and sending things online and shipping things online, but nobody knows me. So, and I feel so comfortable in that stage. But I've learned that I don't have to be there. I could speak up, and in my simple language, I don't need to have an eloquent language, just simple language, and I'm able to communicate. So, but that has been my belief that completely switched in my personal life. Mm-hmm.
Love it. Thanks for sharing that. And I think a lot of people can resonate with that. I know I can, in the sense of, simple language. There are a lot of times I get intimidated by people who have a very extensive vocabulary. And, and it's easy to try to discourage yourself by associating with them or having a conversation or dialogue with them, because they may say a word, you're while you're listening, in a surface, back in the background, all these, you're seeing a show where this guy's drawing all these formulas to find us
Right.
weight, right? Well, your brain's going all this, like trying to find, like, what did that guy just say like
Yeah.
5 minutes ago? Right. That's me, do, do, do.
Yeah.
Sorry, the number you've reached is no longer in service,
That's me. Yeah.
Yeah, I can relate. So yeah, thanks for sharing that, because oftentimes we get intimidated by by that language, or feel like we can't communicate because our communication is different, especially in now. As we start to wrap up, tell me something like when the lights are out, right, and you're in the trenches, you're in the thick of it. What's one quote or directive you find yourself repeating to your own self to coach you or to pull you out of the darkness to keep moving forward? Is there anything that comes to mind?
Not necessarily a quote, but I always think about my kids. Love being a mom. So that's the one thing that my kids, those are the ones that I get up for. I like serving them, and that's what's pushing me. So it's not necessarily a quote, but even though we go through those trenches, those hard times, I always want to show my kids that we could do the hard things, and we could do it together, and we could push through. And like my other quote was saying, like, this too shall pass. But
that's it right there. This too shall pass.
This too shall pass. But we push forward.
That's a good way to summarize it right there. This too shall pass. And that's a great display for anybody, right? Whether it's kids, it's your spouse, because even today, my wife is extremely frustrated because it's things like, the phrase, when it rains, it pours. It's like we're getting hit with all these different things. It's like, hey man, just remember, this too shall pass. A week, look back on this and like, hey, you remember you had a flat tire on your birthday and this and this and this and this and it's not the birthday present she wanted. I know, but
it happens.
It happens. It does, right? So high achievers, and I'm sure you can resonate with this. High achievers are expert critics of themselves, right? And this is often the hardest one for them. Just take 60 seconds, if you will, or less, of grace. What is one mistake or failure you've made that you finally had to forgive yourself for, in order for you to level up, to advance, and just to move forward?
I think one thing I do regret not doing is, I'm going to go back to, I think I mentioned it already, but having a coach or having somebody that's gone through the same struggles in the business, having that person, because I honestly, there wasn't, seriously, like, I was struggling, me and my husband were struggling with a piece of our business, and we were trying to just figure it out by ourselves. And then we're like, okay, well, we're not going to be able to do that. So just like not do it. But then we'll always come back to it. And then until we just happen to, talk to somebody, and they're like, oh, you know what you should do? You should talk to this guy. And then we're like, okay, so let's just have a conversation with that guy. That guy helped us in our mindset, gave us clarity. And in 3 steps, he's like, okay, do this, this, and this, and that. And we're like, that's it? And he's like, yeah, that's it. Why? Do you understand where I'm coming? We're like, yeah, but that's too easy. Like, no, that's too easy. No, give me the hard part. Like, no, you don't have to do that. It's just 1, 2, 3. And then that takes me back to like when I said that I want to help 12 ladies start their business. And it's just like one product, one market, one niche, one sales traffic, it's just that simple.
Yeah.
But sometimes it
is. Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that. And, I'm right there with you. I had a conversation with my coach not too long ago about a problem I just couldn't think out. I just couldn't get out of my head on, and literally, no exaggeration, 10-minute conversation. And I'm like, dude, I should have thought of something like that. Like, it was that simple, but the result and the investment on that was at 100x easy. And I was so stuck in my head, so like just frustrated and so forth. So I'm sure you can relate to that. So lastly, as we wrap up, Diana, as I kind of prepped you in the green room, so to speak, I prepared you for this 2-part question, right? This last question is kind of 2 parts. And this is completely anonymous. When I say anonymous, like my guest doesn't know the lineup, right? So I ask you, what would be a question you would love to ask my next guest? So as I refresh your memory on that, here's the question my guest had for you, my previous guest. What makes the difference between someone who is successful versus someone who is not? In your opinion, your belief?
That is a really good question because, yeah, and that's a hard question actually to answer because in my circle of friends, there's some that are successful and it comes so naturally to them and so easy, and they don't even have to stress out about it. And they wake up thinking about, what's the next project they're going to do. And for me, I am not like that. I don't think about, what's the next project. I'm in the project right now, and it takes a little bit more of me to push and to get things going. So what does it take? Like it's hard, but I don't know what's the difference. Like how I don't know. I guess it's a mindset, or maybe another thing that does help is the people that you surround yourself with that helps you become the successful person. Because probably if I don't surround myself with the inner circle that sometimes I'm in, the inner circles that I'm in, I could probably go on my own little hole and just get stuck and not move forward. But the people that I surround myself with, they're encouraging me. They're like, oh, we're doing this, we're going doing that. And it's such an encouraging. And then maybe that's that's the difference between successful people and not successful people.
You nailed it, Diana. That you answered it without realizing you answered it. It is about the mindset. It is about who you surround yourself with, and yeah, that's it. You answered it perfectly. So now this is your moment, Diana. What would you love to ask my next guest?
So what I would ask my your guest is, okay, now that we've pivoted ourselves, and now we're like really focusing in marketing, but marketing has so many aspects. Like, what is the number one thing in marketing they would do? Like, what is a priority? Because there's a lot of things, but what would be like priority? Like that one skill that I need in marketing.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay. All right. Awesome, Diana. Well, we got to wrap up. So Diana, I really appreciate you joining me in sharing the last hour with us. And really just thank you for giving us, not just the $40 million version of the story, because it is easy to come on here and talk about, the highlight reels and talk about these wins and sales volume. It's not so easy talking about, the struggles, the adversities, the darkness that it took to get there. So I appreciate you allowing us to look at the reality that you and your husband had to survive, your family had to survive, and the brutal realization that you had to come to make you guys realize, okay, we've got to pivot, we got to do these things, right? So you didn't just share, the highlights and so forth. You showed the struggles, the fake freedom, and the things you do to pivot. So, just want to honor you for that. For those that are listening, for the person that's listening right now who resonates, with that pressure, maybe they are drowning in their own business of chaos, or maybe they still want to be, they're like, Diana, I love what you just said. How can I find you? So talk to that person. How can they find and connect with you?
Find me on Facebook. And I think, Karl, you can have some of my links, and you can just send me a DM, and simple.
Awesome, Diana. Yes. So I will definitely be including your social media profile, any links that you want to, that you've put in. I'll definitely be sharing that. Again, Diana, it's been an honor to have you. Thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. It made me look back on all the exciting things that happened in my life. So thank you for reigniting my desire to keep on going. So thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure.